Okay, so this is your Things Fall Apart introduction. I want to show you a few things. Have your packet out. You're going to need it. These three things are must-dos that you must do. So you are understanding what the text is about, where the setting is, what's happening with the characters, our main character, and so on. So step one is a background research assignment. I am going to give you your topic for that. It's on page 4 of your packet. And I will give you that topic. There's a variety of topics. I'm just randomly assigning them to people so everyone doesn't choose the same one. So we'll have a nice array of one-pagers that you have done that we can look at to help understand some things about the background. Step 2 is this background PowerPoint. That's what the step 2 stands for, PP, PowerPoint, which is going to tell you some things about the author and the text and Nigeria itself. And while you are doing that, you have some Cornell notes to fill in. I think there's like 8 or 9 questions. They're really, really important. So you understand the book better. The book itself is not challenging to read, but if you don't understand why things are happening, it will be easier to lose interest. So there's 9 questions dealing with the 3 essential questions at the top, which I encourage you to take a look at. It's about the author, his point of view from the African author point of view. How does he blend the African storytelling with European style? And what is the significance of the Nigerian culture? All of these are really important for you to understand. And then the last must-do, step 3, is also in your packet on page 7. It is watching the video and hearing Chinua Achebe speak and talk about what Africa was like 50 years after he wrote this book. So let me quickly talk you through a little bit of what's on the slides. Here's a photo of him and also just real small bibliographical information. There's a phonetic pronunciation at the top for you. He is one of our more recent authors. He passed away in 2013. That third bullet is really important. He writes about the breakdown of the African culture when the colonization happened, when people from Europe came and tried to kind of take over different parts of Africa. His goal was to teach Nigerians, and I would say even people outside of Nigeria, about their traditions and cultures. And it's taking place in the 1890s in Nigeria. So his purpose, what he's doing, this is his first novel, and the Igbo are the name of the tribe of people in Nigeria, and the British have come to colonize them and kind of take over. And his point of view, it's called a seminal text. That means it's one of the first of its kind, was from the African point of view. That's a huge deal, that he was able to show that they had culture, they had religion, they had a life. No one needed to come and help them or save them or kind of take over. So that point of view is a big deal in terms of what, not seeing it from the outside, from the British point of view, but for the first time seeing it from the African point of view. That was a change. His style, as I mentioned, it includes 3, you might call them type of literary elements of sorts, and you might have heard of some of them before. Number 1 is the use of idioms. I've given you an example in our culture of an idiom. We might say on a rainy day, it's raining cats and dogs. That's not literal, right? We don't mean it's raining cats and dogs. What we do mean is that it's raining really hard, and we just want to be more colorful when we say it. I will help you find, and we'll talk about what some of the idioms are in this text, and the more you see them, the more you will recognize them. He also used proverbs, little sayings that would kind of teach someone a lesson. We have them in our culture, they have them in their culture as well, and they're fairly easy to find, and again, we'll talk about some of those as we start, and you'll become more familiar with them. And finally, he also used folk tales. These are stories that people hand down through generations, usually oral tradition. They're telling them, and as it's passed on, often there's animal characters, something happens to them, and then we humans learn a lesson from that. In our culture, you might have read of fables. Aesop's fables are somewhat popular. It's that kind of a story. So, and his goal was, he wanted literature to make and help create social change, which is a very admirable goal. You'll see some slides then about Nigeria. I'm not going to talk you through them all, but again, in your Cornell notes, there are some questions about this, so kind of be smart and efficient readers. Read your questions in your notes first so you know what you should be listening for and looking for on the screen so you can stop it, jot your notes down, and have a good sense of what you need to know, so you're not overwhelmed and tuning me out and not paying attention to what's on the slide. A couple maps of Nigeria if you're not familiar with where it is and what some of the cities are. Some logistics and background on Nigeria. The Igbo, which is the group in our book, they're the third largest ethnic group in Nigeria, and you also have a reference there living on the eastern region where our book, Things Fall Apart, is set, and where that is on the map. This is a really important one. This says European countries that have colonized Africa, and you can see, who the countries are and how they came in and basically just tried to take over everything. Britain is the colonizer in our text, but you can see quite a bit of French and some other countries as well. So I think it's just really interesting to see how that happened in Africa from all these European countries coming in. Then you'll have some history on Nigeria, just some text and some actual photos of Nigeria that you can kind of see there. References to the slave trade as a center for European slave trade. Nigeria was known for that. It was very dangerous, but it was also very lucrative for people. Colonized by Great Britain, you have a little bit of a timeline there. And a couple things about the Igbo tribe. Here you have 3 facts about them. Again, they live in the southeastern part, tropical rainforest. The environment is huge in this book. If you live off of the land, which they do, they're subsistence farmers, you rely on the weather, if you know anyone who does any kind of farming. And tropical rainforest gives you a whole gamut of very challenging weather situations. So there's a lot of that referenced in the book because it was super important to them. Also, references to the kinds of crops they had, who raised those crops, what was important. A couple more things on here. There's 4 bullets about culture. I'm asking you to take some notes on those so you know them, because all of these things come up in the book, and you need to understand that to help understand what's happening to our main character. His name is Okonkwo. He will have multiple wives, and you'll be like, why? Well, this is why. Why do the men make all the decisions? This is why. Why do the men grow yams and women grow other crops? Some of that will be answered and will make sense to you when you start reading the book. And then there's 4 bullets here on the society itself. It was led by a group of elders. We have elders in our book. Individual achievement was a big deal. That's in the first chapter of our book, is Okonkwo's achievement helped him move up in social status. They have a huge respect for hospitality and kind of welcoming people into their home. And you will see that as well. And even between different tribes, hospitality is just a kind of a kindness. Is very important in their culture. And last couple, I believe, are just some images and some vocabulary. An obi is a hut, and there's a photo of one. You will also have some African terms. You also have a nice glossary at the back of your book that's going to help you learn those terms. But the final one then you have is Igwuru, who is the masked spirit who appears during certain rituals or during certain celebrations. They put a mask on as part of that celebration. And that is kind of explained again in the book when you see it happen. And in terms of when it happens or what is the celebration, what's happening when that shows up, when they're making decisions. So that is it in a nutshell. You have some tasks to do. If you have questions, ask me. Otherwise, good luck.